Welcome to the unofficial NCLEX podcast. My name is Katie Kleber and I am your host. Today's episode is entitled Inspect Equipment for Safety Hazards. It is episode 67 and it is the only episode in the safe use of equipment section. So this is relatively straightforward, but we're going to go into some specific points here. So when we say equipment, what do we mean? Electrical cords, loose or missing parts. This can include IV pumps, wound vacs, sequential compression devices, monitors, vital machine, those vital machines you can take around from room to room. A lot of that stuff gets plugged in. You will find yourself as a nurse plugging in items all the time. And naturally, those wear down, and we have to make sure that they're okay before we actually use them on patients. The good thing is a lot of hospitals have policies and procedures where they routinely go through and inspect each equipment on a specific basis. And this includes stuff, even the bed. Beds usually plug in, and they look at those on a routine basis. So someone else from maybe the mechanical engineering or equipment department does. But when we are using them actively on patients, we need to monitor for that as well. So it's typically in the first place has to be inspected and signed off on before using with a patient. But if we notice that, maybe some wiring is exposed, an IV pump is malfunctioning or it's not working appropriately, then what we do is we have to have a specific way to tag it that says something's wrong with this, let's say an IV pump. What is it that's wrong with it? Won't silence, won't run, the run button doesn't work, or the alarm doesn't work, which would be a safety issue. There's loose or frayed wiring when you plug it in, and writing that on the ticket and then getting that out of circulation so that does not get used on another patient. So tagging it and removing it and sending it for repair, however that looks, for whatever hospital is really, really important. So you're routinely looking at this stuff before you're using it on a patient. It's important to make sure that your patients know about this as well. So if they happen to notice something, you want them to let you know. And one of the big things to let the patients know is if this is the safety issue, if something is alarming, we don't want the patient to troubleshoot that themselves or their loved ones. We want them to let us know. So important to educate, hey, if the IV pump's going off, let me know, put on your call light and let me address it. Do not touch it. Actually, many of them have lock functions, so the people can't mess with the key functions. And yes, I have had to use that before. Provide education to your patients just on basic use if there's something they need to use about the pump or whatever, like the wound vac pump or something like that, independently, that they know how to do that properly. We also want to inspect equipment that a patient may bring in themselves. So maybe if someone's bringing in their own CPAP machine, or much more frequently, are they bringing in their own home phone charger? Like if there's frayed, those iPhone chargers, typically they're some of them break down kind of easily. So we've got to make sure, hey, that's not, gonna catch fire while we're in the hospital. That's a safety issue in general, but think about that in a hospital as well. So that's really important that we're, inspecting their equipment before they're using it. We want to facilitate appropriate and safe use of the equipment. So, we don't want them using the electrical items near a water source like a sink, and we're going to educate and reinforce proper use. Remember that aspect, removing the malfunctioning equipment from the patient care area and report to appropriate personnel. It is really important that malfunctioning equipment does not go back into circulation before it's fixed and tagged. Why? Because it's just going to get used on another patient. It's going to waste time from that person utilizing the equipment to realize it's broken and have to go get another thing. Or we're putting the patient at risk because we're saying that, we're not addressing this safety issue immediately. We're letting other people mess with it and come to the same conclusion. So the sooner that you can pull that out of circulation, tag it appropriately, get it to wherever it needs to be so that it can be fixed. And two, think about it on the other side of it is the people that are responsible for caring for this equipment. Well, they're very busy, like regularly assessing and checking off and making sure it's safe, but they're not the ones using the equipment every day in between the safety checks. So they are relying on the nursing staff, the CNAs, whoever is using these pumps and these things that plug in, relying on us to let them know when there's a problem in between the times that they're checking up on them. So we're really, working together to make sure the equipment is safe. And I found this little, NCLEX point too, that if a patient does experience an electric shock, ensure that the device is turned off before touching the patient because you want to prevent yourself from getting shocked as well. So that's a big safety thing. So remember that. So that really concludes our episode 67, Inspect Equipment for Safety Hazards. Thanks, guys.
This has been another episode of the unofficial NCLEX Prep Podcast. To get the massive PDF guide that goes along with this podcast, head over to nrsng.com/NCLEX-Prep. That's nrsng.com/NCLEX-Prep. That's a free download that you can take with you anywhere, and you can basically have this podcast in text format. Our goal here at NRSNG.com is to give you the tools and the confidence that you need to succeed in nursing school, on the NCLEX, and in your life as a nurse. We want you to succeed, and we want you to become part of this movement of nurses that is dedicated and motivated to learning and becoming the best nurse that they can possibly be. My name is John Haas, RN CCRN, and I'm the founder of NRSNG.com, and I sincerely thank you for being here, and I'm so proud of you for taking this step in your journey. Now you know what time it is now. It's time to go out and be your best self today. Happy nursing.